I'm really here today as the project leader of an entire biosecurity unit. The 18 interns are in my operation, and we have a number of staff. We also have a number of experts. I come through the plant world, but clearly we need fauna experts in reptiles, and really my presentation this morning is a cumulative presentation of a lot of effort from a lot of my team, and there's been a lot of the statistics. Whenever I talk to scientists, I feel we must give them statistics, because otherwise we look waffy. Well, you've got statistics today. So without further ado, welcome to our world. It's a new world. Warren Schmidt and myself have been moved from nurseries and pet partnership to biosecurity, and then we were asked to do both. So we really are looking into the world with our 18 interns, and we're saying what's happening. What's happening in biosecurity? We see in Australia their postgraduate studies in plant biosecurity. We see that the New South Wales are worried about fire ants, and we're looking to ourselves and saying, well, you know, what have we got here, and should we be doing this ourselves? I am a long-time attendee of the Chelsea Flower Show. I was stunned last year when I saw a huge big garden called Stop the Spread. I don't know, Westa, have you copyrighted that, because Britain is stealing it as we speak right now. And their garden was, this was trees, they're all dead, and that's what's going to happen if we don't take care of invasive species. Guy Preston kindly regards the Chelsea Flower Show as the headquarters of invasive species trade. But last year we had the first glimmer of hope. That was the other side of the garden. Lots of flowers. If we look after invasive species, we get rid of them, and we bring in all the good flowers. Those were the judges actually at the show themselves. This year they took a different angle. They started a campaign with DEFRA, which is the Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs people. They have 93 phytosanitary agriculture people. They have 8 invasive species people, and those 8 invasive species people have only been there for 2 years. So invasive species for Britain is very, very new. I spoke to their top guy there. He said, well, we're actually going on the sort of the campaign to deal with customs. We must say that animals must have passports, plants must have passports, they all have to have checked, and not just humans, and that's what they're going to do in Britain, which we were very interested in. So now we have the plant immigration, and they basically were saying that you cannot get into Britain unless you have a passport for your plant. And of course 3 or 4 South African plants are on that list right now. So it's always interesting to see what they're doing. They are offering they're saying to us, send some of your interns to Heathrow, we'll send some of our people to Tambo, and we'll you know, trade ideas and thoughts. And I must say that's very exciting, because normally we deal with Australia and New Zealand. Our interns also, every week, have to scan the entire world. We have probably Google alerts on probably about 300 issues and about 500 species. On Monday morning, everybody has to say what they found. This is the kind of thing we find. Lavender-filled teddy bears leaving Tasmania, big hysteria. They're full of seeds, they're full of weeds, and the Shanghai guys go absolutely mad. And that's interesting to us, because we know that our biosecurity is in a big wide world. We have partners all over the world that are doing exactly what we're doing, and we know that we're on the right track on this one. We're a bit behind, but we're going to get there. In terms of communication from the outside world, we have to know what the trends are, because we fit into the world. We're not scientists, we're not out of this, we have to fit into the big wide world. And we need to know that there's a shift to mobile. 17.4 of all internet traffic is now mobile, and we've got to make sure that our websites can be read on mobile, and make sure that the younger generation are having access to them. People now don't just get the news. That's old-fashioned. You get the news, you want to get the news. So if we have 3,000 subscribers on Facebook, they want to know about invasive species. If they don't want to know about invasive species, they don't sign up to us. And this is a world whereby you only see the news that you want to. Social media impact, the power have the people. The people have the power. And on a political level, Egypt, you go through it, it's happening here as well. The activists are out there, we do have enemies in terms of they think that this invasive species business is nonsense, and they will tell everybody around the world that it is nonsense. And only last week, Brian and Dave Richardson were writing in The Witness and got a full-page broadsheet to try and counter some lunatic that's calling us eco-fascists. The crisis is always on, 24/7, we know that. I have a snake expert in my office. he's often called to go and find snakes that are found in the Kempton Park post office that have been, posted from Zambia to Belleville or such like. And transparency is king. Don't tell lies, ever. They'll come back to bite you. We also live in an evidence-based society. Because it's evidence-based, the scientists are under enormous pressure. Prove that a particular plant or a particular animal should be on the list. If you can't prove it, how dare you make legislation in that result? And we're facing that at the moment. We're facing an onslaught from the trout industry. It's not fun, and it's going to get worse. Images are everything. I always say to everybody, nobody reads the web. They scan the web. So when I see these abstracts, which are sort of like 20 lines in a nice little box of copy, I think to myself, well, gee, there must be about 3 people going to read that. I get my teams to divide them up into 40 paragraphs so that people can scan your abstracts. We'll talk about that later. Communicating for a purpose is big. If you can tell people that you're doing something to save the world, that's big. Communications integrated. We have a team at the side here. We are fully live with Twitter. We are fully live with Facebook. And we've already uploaded all your abstracts onto our website for access to everyone. We loaded Brian van Vulken's abstract yesterday at 12 o'clock. And do you know, by 9 o'clock last night, 11 people had read it? It's an extraordinary that in actual fact in the world there are so many people interested in what you're doing. And we've got to be your own news agency. Laugh off the traditional media. Waste of time, too busy, not interested in us. We start our own news agency. We tell the world what we're doing. How are we telling the world what we're doing? Well, obviously for a couple of years we've been working quite closely on our Invasive Species South Africa website. It is fully funded by environmental programs, and it's taken a lot of effort and pressure. We have probably the best part of 3,000 or 4,000 pages on this website. You'll probably be amazed that you probably got half your papers. If I get a paper sent to me casually, it goes on the website. Yes, I know there are all sorts of issues about, journal, blah, 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 but until somebody complains, it's on our website. In terms of that, we're going to have to change. Like, we're going to have to change Weed Buster Week to National Invasive Species Week, in my opinion. We have to change the symposium, weeds, and all these funny words of the symposium. This has got to become the South African Invasive Species, National Invasive Species Conference, finished in cloud. And everybody in the world will know what we're doing here and how we're doing it. This is what we're doing at the moment. We've created a landing page this week with our interns. All the abstracts have been uploaded. I believe the pictures for 1 picture per abstract was loaded this morning. A YouTube video of what you have to say will be loaded as soon as we get back to the office on Friday. And Facebook and Twitter links. Brian, we've already sent out Twitter and we've already uploaded a Facebook on what Brian has just said now. And it'll be very interesting to see who in actual fact is watching and listening. Yeah, we can do the statistics. We can do statistics too. We have been monitoring this website now since 2011. I might tell you, Guy Preston was jolly rude when I started out. He said my efforts were statistically insignificant. They were. We started out in February 2011 with 38 visitors. And he just said, well, carry on doing it, but I don't need to know about it. What you're doing is absolute nonsense. I said, fine, I'll carry on. We now have, every month, we have 8,500 visitors. Very interested in March, how many extra visitors we got, primarily on account of the February regulations, and also on account of probably the 50-50, with thank you to Lorraine Strathy and Andrew McConaughey and the team in Peter Maritzburg, who put us into the main media in a big way. But nevertheless, it is going up, it is going to be statistically significant eventually. How many pages are they accessing? We put everything, and we've got a long way to go in terms of, doing a good job as librarians, but it's there if you look for it. And again, we started for a month, only 98 pages were visited within our website. We now have people accessing 25,000 pages in our website every month. Now, those are teachers, those are school people, those are professionals, those are all sorts of people. Let's find out who they are. If we look at our newsletter subscribers, started out very low and we're now up to nearly 2,500. Those are people who have gone onto our websites, said yes, we'd like your e-newsletter, and we send it to them. Where do all these people come from? Who's accessing accessing this information that's all about you? Well, a large number of them come from outside of South Africa. They are international, and you can see the big green blog on the side, on the left-hand side, very much from outside. Cape Town, of course, they're all missionary lunatics on the flora and fauna side, so we must expect Cape Town to be the largest sector. Johannesburg, who actually we have difficulty talking to them about flora and fauna in a big way, but certainly Johannesburg and Pretoria are there. And then what interested me is Berea. We found that there was a whole bunch of people that statistically came up in Google from Berea. Now we can only think that's Sanby EDRR team who are accessing our website big time, because we don't know anyone else who lives in Berea. Okay. Who's coming, and are they new people? 78% of the people coming to our websites are new people. It's very encouraging to know that they are. And of course, returning visitors, 22. Those will be the people who are teaching the material or actually are needing to know material and more stuff. Traditional media is now old. So my idea is that we have to go to the people, we run our own, we run our own news agency. I believe that social media is our own news agency. And we have to understand that social media is replacing traditional journalism as a news source. I myself am a traditional journalist. I edited 8 magazines, and I'm still a columnist on 2 regional papers. But quite frankly, even I know that we're in a losing battle. Over 50% of people get their official news, that is, the new Prime Minister, somebody shot, 14 people killed in Kenya, from social media. And Facebook is a news line, it's a news wire. Facebook is like Reuters. Gone are the days when you tell somebody what you had for breakfast. That's passé. You actually are passing news on to your friends. 46% of people get their news online. So in actual fact, paper stuff is gone for the dogs. How significant is social media? Basically 27, that's virtually 28% of all people get their news from the social media. How is it broken up? 60% of the people get their, of the 30%, 60% of those people get their news from Facebook, 20% from Twitter, 12% from YouTube, 11% from Google, and obviously a whole bunch of others from other areas. Now if you have a look compared to TV news, that's 30% they get their news from social media, 60% they get their news from TV news. Now in this country obviously that would be very higher probably because of the lack of access to social media, but nevertheless that certainly is growing all the time. So I refuse to think that it can be called statistically insignificant anymore. What are we doing on Facebook? Obviously a large number of you interact, you like our sites, we appreciate it. I see Facebook in 2 ways. I see it one as a news feed where we actually send out news to 3,467 people who liked us. Not all of them are sitting on the thing waiting for every, Acacia Baeliana that we're going to send out there. But the other reason is it's a marvelous training exercise. Our interns have to put 2 Facebook features up a week, and they have to put 2 Cape Town Invasive features up a week, which means that we are training people because they've actually got to find out everything there is about that species. They've got to scintillate it down into 3 paragraphs, and they've got to put it up on the Facebook page. And for me, that is real-time, on-time learning for a lot of these interns, which when they arrived in my office didn't know the difference between basically a tree and a shrub. This is what they put together. It is checked. Some of the stuff is totally outrageous. It's getting less outrageous as they catch on. And obviously they learn how to put pictures together, how to reduce the pictures, and how to put the best picture first and all the other things that go with it. But ultimately they are working 8 to 5 on invasive species, and they will be our first incubator team of biosecurity interns that will go into Tambo and obviously the ports, harbours and 4 terrestrial borders that are planned. In terms of invasive species, what days are our fans online? There's a lot of Google Analytics where we can work this out. We have about 2,500 people who are basically getting our stuff. Whether they look at it or not, I don't know, but they're getting it. And it's fairly standard right the way through the days. in terms of what hours the fans are, we have a look at this basically to say when is it best to load stuff onto Facebook. And the people who are interested in invasive species are usually environmentalists, conservationists, and they regard us as a weekend interest. So Friday evening is a big night for when people are looking to see what we're doing. Because statistically, we don't make up enough of the 3,500. So you might see this during, you might see our Facebook page during the week, but the broad masses of the public are looking for it on 6 o'clock on Friday night. So if you want to load something, 12 o'clock on Friday is a very good load time. We've just started with our dear colleague Louise Stafford, Cape Town Invasives. It is small, it is growing, and this is an example of how you can run something on a metropolitan or area basis. And really, we should be running these in every metropolitan, every town in the country, particularly as people get more and more keen about local. We monitor the daily reach, and you literally can see who's looking, who's answering, who's liking, and you can drill down to extraordinary figures. So in terms of Facebook and in terms of the websites, they are very monitored, and there are a lot of outcomes that we can make out of this thing. I'm not the only person in the world that thinks that online is the be-all and end-all, and I'm now going to go through 3 issues that cannot be dealt with online, and are far more traumatic, difficult, and very interesting for us. And obviously the first one is the Mallard Ducks. And Louise Stafford and myself are at the forefront of dealing with this, her on a management level, me on just trying to keep us alive before the activists shoot us, kill us, or get rid of us. But I don't think any of us can underestimate the legacy of Donald Duck. Donald Duck has orange legs, our mallards have orange legs. We're telling everybody that if the thing has orange legs, he's category 1, he's got to be killed. It's a huge problem. And we haven't won that war yet. There is a lot to go on this particular war. People love ducks. They love feeding ducks. They grow up with it. They've read books where children go to the park every Sunday and feed ducks. So we're going to have to really fight this one. We're now going to try some very interesting stuff. One of my interns said to me, but listen, you know, you want to kill all those ducks, but actually, you know, from my perspective, wow, we're going to be able to do this. I can't see the screen, I can only see that screen. We're going to get it. One of my interns came to me, I don't know where he found this, probably SABC 1 or something, and I thought he was an absolute hero of note. No, we're not going to do it. No, we're going to do that. We are going to come hell or high water, see this thing. And he came and he said, how can we kill ducks if this is playing on SABC 1 every night?
Mac. 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 Mac, 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 Mac.
Mac washing powder. It'll brighten up your day. Go ahead, try it.
Mac is linked to whitewashing and washing powder. We're going to have a problem if we're going to go and kill all the Mac ducks at Emmerich Dam. Sorry guys, there are more of the Mac ducks. From my perspective, we obviously, the municipality of Cape Town, Cape Town Metropolitan City of Cape Town, are way ahead of anybody else in the country in terms of media and actually testing out some serious theories on invasives. But we do get into trouble, and certainly Louise and I took one for the team when we tried to remove some ducks in the Tygerberg area. The activists and the residents got together, we were run out of town, they put it a sit-in, they were going to wait for us at 6 AM as we arrived, and they were going to cause a scene. They got the TV cameras in there, so we ran away like all smart people, and found ourselves on the front page of the Tygerberg News. So those ducks are still there, and that was a failed exercise. But the point is, we've got to have a few failures along the way so that we know what's going on. We do continue with our Save Our Indigenous Waterfowl, and that's quite successful. Eucalyptus, we've got a lot of stories we've got to tell there. This new complicated thing about which eucalyptus you can cut down and which you can't, and excluded from urban areas, and blah-de-blah-de-blah, stand by. What they have done is, thank you to Sanvi's bee foraging unit, they have given us a bee that we can give to the industry, and we obviously, if we can promote all the bee foraging plants, we will try and mitigate the antagonism from the beekeepers of South Africa towards our eucalyptus policy. The case of famine weed, I apologise to the KZN forum. We've been dealing with this a lot, and these pictures have seen. But I'm putting 4 or 5 up just for the rest of the people. How do you deal with famine weed? We took a KZN Cessna, Ian Rushworth, thank you to KZN Wildlife Ezemvelo, and we went up the side of the country to see in February whether we could see this famine weed from the air. Famine weed is our next biggest nightmare, and we basically from the air saw a whole bunch of really, really infested areas with famine weed. This was a pension payout, and again, Ian Rushworth and his team were able to isolate where the famine weed was. Now this famine weed obviously causes, as Dr. Ian MacDonald would know, and is the sort of the leading expert on this whole thing, it's absolutely a nightmare for asthma. The KZN Health Department has identified an area of asthma in the area, and obviously it works in the transport, but I'm quite sure that Michael Brock will tell you more about that. In terms of communication for that area, we will not be able to work through online. In that particular area, north of Isimangalisa Wetland Park, I can assure you that online capacity and where Facebook capacity is low. It's a fully isiSulu area, and we need to go in and we need to make partners with radio stations who in actual fact can go in and they can run music shows. They can create local artists to create a song. I believe that they can get politicians and give them time on their radio stations. So there are areas where online will not work. I actually like the idea of famine weed road shows, and I've certainly put in for budget to do this. I think we could have road shows at all the Cozy Bay, sort of Manguzi City. We could send a stage in there with musicians playing famine weed songs, handing out famine weed pamphlets, talking to the schools, having competitions of choirs if they've sung about famine weed, or it will be called the famine weed choir operation. But in other areas we do need to go very much down into the local areas, use local people to send our message out. I've moved very quickly, and we were told that we had to have an anecdote. So, I'm going to tell you an anecdote. Our office gets lots of weird requests. We are the lightning rods for all of the invasive species and all the traumas that go down. And yesterday we got a very interesting, very long SMS from a passionate conservationist. And I'm going to tell you, read the message that he sent us. Dear Warren and Kay, can you help me to identify a snake? We climbed the Spitzkoppe mountains in Namibia today. After 7 hours of hiking, I was really tired. Then suddenly, as I stumbled over a large rock, I startled a snake. It was black, over 2 meters long, as thick as my wrist, and I think the head might have been grey, light grey. I confess my attention to detail was not great at the time. I yelped, I stumbled in my efforts to get away from the snake. The snake was 5 meters in front of me. He reared up. He moved aggressively towards me. When it was a meter away from me, it clearly decided that I was not worth the effort and turned away, to slither away. Now that I think about it, it did not have a hood, so I presume that it was not a cobra. Maybe it was a black mamba. But there are also mole snakes in the area, so it might have been that as well, I'm not too sure. Any idea, Kay and Warren, what it might have been? As Umskuk Lorenz said under the Wittok tree, there are 2 types of leopards. But when you encounter a leopard unexpectedly in the veld, you seldom stop to check which one it is. There's only one kind of running, and that's the fastest kind. With kind regards, Guy Preston. To which his loyal Biosecurity unit replied, Dear Guy, we need to just... Dear Guy, Warren Schmidt, the head of our reptile identification team, would like you to know that you're almost definitely hiking in the natural range, as opposed to the extralimital range, of the black mamba. Regarding identification, Warren says that a mole snake would never have reared up like that, so it must have been a black mamba or a black spitting cobra. He also estimates that he confirms that if the black mamba had got you, it would have been catastrophically fatal. He also estimates that after the black mamba struck, you would have only had 30 minutes to give us final instructions on how to write NEMBA made easy. However, Warren believes that you actually encountered a black spitting cobra. And the black spitting cobra can rear up without spreading its hood. The venom of the black spitting cobra contains a cytotoxic poison, which means that you would have been blinded if it spat into your eyes. If the venom missed your eyes and made contact with your skin, it would have just eaten away your flesh like toxic acid. We see that you're in the middle of nowhere and conclude that if a spitting cobra had got to you, you would have lost a leg or an arm as a minimum. Finally, Guy, you know you're always desperate for good images in the department. Warren says he hopes you got a picture. Thank you.